بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد الصادق الأمين. Good morning, my students. Today is the penultimate class in this short course, I would say, the class before the last. This class is like dedicated to Faulkner and Hemingway. I mean, like just to compare and contrast, because last week we considered their two short stories. So today we're going like to compare and contrast in terms of their style of writing. Then we are going to have a quick look at the sandbox, Edward Albee's The Sandbox, before the presenters like come and give their presentation. If time is left, I'm going to comment on their presentation. Next time, I'm going to talk about the exam, and it will be like raising general questions if you have a question, and it would be a final class, little bit ceremonial.
Submitting the research paper.
Yes, and the report. Okay, so are we set up?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's see, a report. Yes, Sahar. I saw your reflection last time, and I was pleased with your poem.
Yes, I wanted to read it.
Actually, I wrote it and I shared it in the responses page. It's about Hemingway, Hemingway's story. Loneliness, isolation, and futility all appear in the modern society. Are they reflections of the disillusion that hit people after war, or just the people stopped to care no more? There is but indifference, the young people's hearts invaded. Left in nada, the old generation is derived, a new word of nothingness, a new word of stiff-hearted, a word of impotence. You can't even find a clean place well lighted. Only materialism the people control. Still no companion, no families, no tight ties, and no comfort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This poem summed up perhaps the main theme and the main motifs. Loneliness. I mean, which was perhaps the main theme of a clean, well-lighted place, and loneliness was there in Emily, or arose for Emily. Still, there is space for another student to report. Yes.
Hello. Because this is the last week, and the second lecture will be the last one, I can't observe that this week includes the last lectures in American course. Today, we say farewell to tape lecture, Dr. Akram and Abu Hamza indication. There is no doubt that this course helps me to get full understanding of American literature. Despite of many literary work that we studied through this course, it was interesting to move from distinguished work to another. Anne Bradstreet, Edward Taylor, Mary Rowlandson, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, Emily Dickinson, Whitman, William Faulkner, Douglas and Hemingway, and Edward Albee, all of them for a goodbye. Thank you for all inspiring us with American feature. After graduation, we will begin with searching for our identity as a worker in society. Then we will be more wiser to talk about transcendentalism. After this course, we are able to speak up and stand with feminism theory. We are able enough to fight for our religion and refute Puritans' belief. Nature will be our source for regeneration and comfort. The death also will be our friend that we have to prepare for him. Don't forget symbolism, because we can be more clever by using it. There is no doubt that every feature affects our life, but what about American dream? I think this feature encourages us to create American students' dream, which is success in this course. It will be a good idea too if all American students travel to America as Palestinian delegation to touch American aspects in reality, not just in literature. It is a Palestinian students. So everything have to end. With tears, farewell tent. Goodbye is my said to my teacher and friend. Thank you.
Thank you, for these valedictorious reports and reflection. In fact, I started to look, carefully at your response, your reflection. Last night I was thrilled. I was very happy when I read Taj, a reflection about the value of studying literature, It was very interesting because usually I argue that those students who study literature become more competent, than any other student. So you are affirming whatever I believe. Anyway, yes, today we're going to see, last time, if you remember, we talked about Hemingway, and we talked about Faulkner. In fact, those two writers were contemporary writers, and they were rivals. They competed each other. They debated with each other. They exchanged letters. Sometimes they praised each other. Other times, they, perhaps reprimanded each other or criticized each other. But the influence of such paradoxical relationship was that, it entrenched the traditions of modernism, because both writers are acknowledged of being modernist. Faulkner was looming in the South with his modernist style, and Hemingway in the North. In fact, if we look at their styles, perhaps their styles were a little bit different, even though they were modernist. Let's see how they were modernist. Let's compare, because if we compare, how were they modernist?
You said that last time in their style, in using the Gothic thing, the symbolism, even the way they write, the things they include in their writing.
Yes, so we're talking about technique, or we are talking about devices. We are talking about narrative technique. So both writers, perhaps sometimes they resort to the stream of consciousness. The stream of consciousness is, is a feature of modernist, style of narration. Both of them do not follow chronological order, like we saw in both of the stories. None of them, or neither of them, follows a chronological order. There was instead flashbacks, foreshadowing. And in both stories, we have open-ending stories. We don't know what would happen to the old man, or the old water in the story. And we don't know how would people react, how would the new generation would react in A Rose for Emily. And it was difficult to anticipate any, a proper end to their stories. Okay, so these are features of modernism. In spite of that, that they were modernists, there were some differences, in their writing style. If we look at Faulkner, Faulkner was writing in long sentences. If you read his sentences, they are very long, and sometimes descriptive, very, he was giving a lot of information. Hemingway was a little bit laconic. He was using short, sentences. And these sentences were not connected, as if he were leaving gaps, intentionally for the reader to fill in. Okay? And I think this has to do with his philosophy of writing, because he thought that, like any work of fiction, or any story should be like an iceberg. One of it should be like above, or 1/8 of it should be above the water, and the other 7 parts should be beneath. I mean, like, it is like simple, but it is deep. And this is what we felt about the style of Hemingway. It was like very simple. The sentences are very clear. They are declarative sentences. You don't have complicated sentences. I see, when I say complex sentences, most of the sentences are declarative, Rarely you would find a complex sentence, okay? But yes, it has a lot of symbolism. Faulkner uses many words to weave an intricate picture in the reader's head. Like he was inclined to more like the images style. He wanted to depict an image. He wanted like to show an image in the reader's mind. So you need more words. You need more description. Hemingway uses many monosyllabic words to create a seemingly simple story. Like it is only on the surface. So he was using monosyllabic. And I think, being a journalist, sometimes Hemingway's style was affected by, the journalistic style, because he worked as a journalist, in the Spanish War, I think.
When I was reading about Hemingway, it was like trying to show rather than trying to describe.
Yes.
Like show me the action, not description.
So he was not like trying to show, to show everything, He was trying like to leave gaps for the reader.
And let the reader describe.
Yes. So like the reader is involved. And this is like a modernist, a modernist style. Even you could say a postmodernist little bit. Faulkner embeds a lot of emotions in his writing. He was like inserting emotional, like he was trying to to insert certain emotions which would leave the reader with different attitudes. Hemingway seems to write without emotion, okay? It was like what we say bland. You know what's mean bland? Like when I say bland, it has no taste, no smell, but it is very rich. So it's paradoxical. Now, this is very important. What I'm saying is very important because if you remember when we started the course, we saw how the Americans were imitating, the European. Nowadays, we have, or in the 20th century, we have like writers who were experimenting, who were experimenting in modernism, who were genuine, who were creative. So, as I told you, like the whole motion of the American or movement of the American literature was from Puritanism to postmodernism. Because if you are looking at the 20th century and 21st century, they ended up by being like the most dominant writers in modernism. Okay, so and if you remember, we said that literature was part of achieving identity because we saw how they were vying to achieve their identity. Then we have here like two writers, like we end the course by talking about two writers who were very creative, very, not imitative at all. So we have the vision of Huckleberry Finn, like we don't have to imitate. We have to tell our own stories. Both writers write about what can be considered universal truth, universal themes. It's very interesting, but you could feel that Hemingway was more philosophical. And if you look at Hemingway's stories, like more philosophical. I mean, Faulkner, on the other hand, was touching upon like themes which, like regional themes.
Like motifs.
Yes, that touched upon the concerns of the southern people, but in fact, they were universal. And that was the paradox. Like when we are talking about loneliness, when we are talking about, sometimes your inability to cope with the changes. So this applies to every society and to every age. So both of them touch upon universal themes, but if you look at Hemingway was more philosophical, and like Faulkner was more realistic. Yes, Faulkner used in a way that used a lot of words while adding in these universal truths. Hemingway, on the other hand, writes in a deceptively simple manner. He writes in the manner of an iceberg, which I explained, earlier. Hemingway impacts the theme of his writing in a way unlike other authors. His themes are usually ideas that everyone knows about, and they are lessons everyone should learn, like how to respect, how to live, how to survive, how to, to fight against loneliness. So he was giving us everyday themes. He was doing that in simple way, simple writing style, reflects his themes. But if you are looking at Faulkner, it was a little bit the opposite. So you have two writers who were modernist writers, but their writing was a kind of rivalry. They were, competing each other in everything, Even in writing, they were competing each other, and everybody tried to prove his distinguished identity. And I think if you look at Hemingway was fascinated by bullfighting, and he thought that the writers should be like bullfighters competing with each other, and this competition would result into, superiority. He was very concerned about himself being superior than Faulkner, and I think Faulkner once made a kind of hierarchy, and he put himself second, and Hemingway, I think, fourth, and he was mad because of this, Yeah. Both of them are, Nobel Prize winners, So we're talking about great writers. Okay. The major disadvantage of writing in this style is that these meanings often go unnoticed because the reader is unable to catch them. In Hemingway, sometimes, it's very deceptive. So readers go on, and without noticing these subtle, let's say, innuendos in the text. Faulkner, on the other hand, uses long, complex stories which include many of the same ideas that Hemingway instills in a reader, just in a different way. They were clearer, his themes, his ideas were clearer, and I think, because he was more prolific in using the words. Okay, I think this is what I wanted to say about the two writers, unless you have something to add or a question to ask before we move to the last text. We are going to consider the Sandbox, Edward Albee, the Sandbox. Usually I leave this for the students to read on their own. But this time, I think, we have to do it together. Okay. Any question concerning Hemingway and Faulkner? Okay. Yes.
According to the theme of loneliness, at the beginning of American literature from 19 and before, it was because they migrated to America, so the loneliness started from this immigration, right?
No, I think loneliness, as we mentioned, it was part of the Puritan legacy, of a Puritan legacy, because we started those early settlers started that austere life, which deprived them from, like a lot of things, a lot of pleasures of life. So it was loneliness, and loneliness continued to be there. Loneliness because you don't have like an identity. Loneliness because of the strict. So we're talking about loneliness as a result of many social, political, and even literary phenomena. Yes?
And religious.
Religious, of course, we're talking about this. So loneliness, was a motif. We saw it in every text. And, but here it's very, loneliness,
I want to ask why.
here, why? Because if you remember, they started by having that, like dream, that dream of having a transcendental, a holy city on the north. And they, on the mount. And they ended up by having nightmare. Like here, the advance of materialism in both Hemingway and, other writers, and you see Faulkner. We saw how materialism dominated and how spiritual values retreated, and what happened to society. Like society, fell apart, and there was no coherent society. So loneliness was a result of human practices, human non-commitment to their original, values and original dreams. Okay, good. So the sandbox. I know some of you wanted to play with the sand, but here we're not playing with the sand. Yes, who's presenting? Okay. Did you have a nice time reading? It's very short. You didn't? How did you find it?
I didn't like the story.
You don't like the story? Why?
I didn't like the style nor the content of the story itself.
So what was the most disgusting thing?
So what? It sounds like an absurd where
Uh-huh.
I can't think about it as it is like an allegory to the whole American literature or to the whole American dream. The grandmother herself represents the America itself in a way that no one is paying attention to her, and her daughter, the mother, gives her
So you started to think of the play in terms of its symbolism. So, this is not a reason why to hate it,
Literally, I didn't enjoy
Okay, no, you are contradicting yourself. If you say, this is deep, this is symbolic, and so you are contradicting yourself. So you're talking about reasons why we should like. Okay, your attitude is different from your interpretation, because if you started to think of the allegorical, the symbolic, it means we are dealing with a very, let's say, artistic work of art.
It has a hidden meaning.
Yes, please.
I read it as a play for family, and how the grandmother spent her life sacrificing for her son, but at the same time her son is not care about her.
Do not care. Very ungrateful. Very ungrateful. So we get sick or we get mad if the children are ungrateful to their parents. But it's this is on the family level. But what about on the society level, or on the whole, on allegorical novel?
Maybe the grandmother symbolizes the whole traditions of at that time, and that the new generations do not like what the.
Okay, we have generations.
So they wanted that.
How many generations do we have, by the way? 3 generations.
Middle, young, and
The old generation represented by grandma, the new generation represented by the young man, who's playing the angel of death, and the middle is, And I think, did you notice like how each generation represented certain values?
Yes.
What is the word? Who's the worst generation?
The middle.
Yeah, the middle is the worst. What about the mom? They're very selfish, very sentimental. What like what is like the whole thing about the sandbox? You know, can you tell me the plot? What is the plot?
I think that the plot is when the young man comes or pretends as the angel of death, that he will kill the grandmother, which symbolizes killing the old traditions and things like that there was in old manners, I mean, and renewing a new generation as young American.
Yeah, but like, what is the plot? What is the story? You know, this is what I want to ask. Yeah, what is the story? Like, there is a story, there is a plot. You know, what is it? Can you tell me what is the story? What? Can you summarize? Yes. Okay. So I understand one thing. Yes.
The summary is that two parents preparing to get the grandmother in their house, and they put her in the sandbox and waited for her to whether she's comfortable or not.
No, I think this is not like a reading. You know, in fact, they were waiting for her. She's dying. You know, like okay, they took her and now they moved her from the ranch, from the farm. They put her in a studio, in a room. She was not taken care of. Now she's dying. They carried her. They put her in a sandbox, preparing for her final, death. And they were waiting. They were waiting for her, and they were crying, of course. But how they were crying? Crying. They were they like genuine in there? They were not. They pretend. Let's pretend, But did you notice who had the upper, who was more dominant? They were, the mummy. Okay. It seems like this is very interesting, I don't know. You have to read it again. And I think, this story perhaps gives three versions of the American dream. If you're, no, I mean like three versions of the American dream. An old virgin, a present virgin, and a future virgin. Okay.
But this is something mysterious in UK, that the general name, mommy to the grandmother, there is no name, and there is some young man who said, I don't have...
He doesn't have a name. He's like, where I'm from? California. California is figures. What mean figures? I mean, in the 80s, of course, 60s, 80s, Hollywood, like to be in Hollywood, like you are reaching the, the peak of the American dream. And, when Ronald Reagan became a president, well, that was the top, because Ronald Reagan came from Hollywood background. He was an actor, he was an actor, and, he became a president. So, like, to achieve the American dream, you have to go through Hollywood, you have to be produced there in order to be a president. That was, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Okay, yes, a play. It has to do with an absurdist word, a word full of menace. It's one act play. Short. Yeah. The style is simple, but it's very symbolic, I mean, in this course, we have not taken any drama, but as you see, like here we have, a dramatist who is very creative. Yes?
I read it from another point of view. I actually did not sympathize with the grandmother, but admit and admire the mommy.
Oh, wow.
That's why, because I stand the grandma, the English literature, and the mommy, the Revolution American, and who direct the new generation, who is not for the young man.
So it's a different interpretation, you know?
Yes.
Good.
So the middle generation want to push the new generation to create and not imitate the old generation. That's why at the end, the grandma thanks the young.
So, okay, you think the whole thing is allegory for the growth of American literature. Like the old woman represented imitation, the young, it was, or the middle was the revolutionary, it was the 19th century, and the 20th, the young. Okay, this is very good interpretation, I haven't thought of this, but it's good. However, you have to see some technical problems in concerning the relationship. Okay, I don't want to talk much about the play because the presenters started to feel concerned. They thought that we are going to say everything. Okay, so I invite them to come.
Good morning, everyone. It's our pleasure today to present our last presentation for the American literature course. It's the Sandbox play by Edward Albee, written in the 1959. This play by Edward Albee is an example of the American drama, of the modern American drama, in which he demonstrates the cruel relations between the members of the middle class family, American family, in which the daughter aims at killing her mom to win by her money. And our presentation will be, the outline is biography, setting, themes, summary, the plot, and characters, symbolism, finally. About Edward Albee, he is the author of this brief play. He was born in March 1928. Edward Albee was an adopted son by Reed Albee. Reed Albee is a powerful American vaudeville producer. Edward Albee brought up in the atmosphere of a rich family and a great affluence. He clashed up early with the strong-minded woman who is Mrs. Albee, who attempted to hold him into a respectable members of the Larchmont, New York social scene, but he refused her attempts.
This is the wife of his adopted,
yes.
who adopted him.
Yes, his adoptive parents. Okay, but he refused her attempts and choosing to be with the artists and intellectuals instead to be with the social members of the society, of the New York society.
The aristocrats. He didn't want to side with the aristocrats.
About her life with this family, by his letter interview, he said this quotation: "I never felt comfortable with the adoptive parents. I don't think they knew how to be parents. I probably didn't know how to be son either." By this quotation, maybe this is my interpretation, I can say that by his play, he expressed his point of view about the American family as a general. Okay. He left the home, and at the age of 20, Albee moved to the New York's Greenwich Village, where he held many of odd jobs, including office boy and record salesman, and a messenger for Western Union. About his works, he has a lot of plays. The first play for him is the Zoo Story, written in the 1958. This story effectively gave a birth to the American absurdist theater, and also his best-known play, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, written in 1962. He wrote other plays like The American Dream and our play The Sandbox in the 1959, and A Delicate Balance, and also Three Tall Women. About his works, his early works reflect a mastery and Americanization of the absurd theater, which is found in the works of the European playwrights like Samuel Beckett. About the setting of our play, we have the place. The place is the beach, and the time, the beginning in the morning and the end of the play at night. I will start with the themes, then my friend will continue. About the theme, the main theme in this play is the inability of the communication between the family members. This theme can be seen by the cold relationship between the characters, mommy, daddy, and the grandma, and also can be seen when the grandma tried to communicate with them, but they failed to understand her, and they also wouldn't respect her at all. The second theme is the society starts to lose its values. The American society as a general doesn't have any values and losing its values continually. Okay, this theme can be seen by different ways. The first thing is when the grandma left her farm when she was born and brought to the city with her daughter. And also the death is losing its value when the angel of the death represents by the young man who is vain and isn't bright at all. And also this American family hasn't any value. And the money is over of anything for them. The very important thing about this theme, the killing of the grandma. The killing of the grandma shows how the values have started disappearing by her death. The most important theme also the death. Edward Albee by his play aims at showing how people receive and interpret the idea of death. About the, I will talk about the mommy and daddy. They think about death like it doesn't matter if the grandma did or not. They putting her in the sandbox and wait for her death moment.
So it's a social duty without any real, feeling.
Yes.
What we call it's a
So cruel.
A duty with sentimental appearance.
Yes, exactly. About the death in the grandma point of view, she accepts her death moment peacefully without any resistance or any action towards this. Okay. There also the fourth theme is the embitness of the contemporary family. Edward Albee aims at showing the reality of the contemporary American family in this play. This scene can be seen through the way of the interact between the characters. There was no feeling of love between them when they have a conversation. And okay, about the old and the new generation. We have three generations. We have the old and the middle and the new. The old represented by the grandma who works hard for her daughter, leave her farm and come to live with her, has values. The middle represents by the mommy and daddy. They don't have any values, don't appreciate any hard works done by the grandma, and the new generation represented by the young man who represents the angel of the dead. Here, the author aims at showing the differences between the three generations and makes a judgment of the new generation's attitude toward the old generation. About the pity and fear, it's the last theme in our play. We feel pity when we see the grandma in the sandbox and her waiting for the moment of death. And the fear can be seen when they putting her in the sandbox, and she was scared and fear from the moment of death.
I think the fear is like by the horror of the attitude,
by the horror of the idea itself.
Yeah. How they dealt with her with lack of respect, how they neglected her, ignored her, and even how they dealt with her theme of death in a very indifferent.
And
so we are horrified by the degradation of the human values. We are horrified by the the advance of materialistic, to the extent that people started to think of no more of family ties.
Yeah. Now I will continue with the rest.
Okay, the second part of our presentation, I will discuss the summary. The Sandbox is a one-act play written by Edward Albee. It conveys a message of elderly care and death, and it is also shows the inability of people to communicate with each other, and it is an example of modern American drama. It is an example of modern American drama in which the author demonstrates the cruel relationship in a middle-class family. So within the story, we can see that there is a dialogue between family members, between the husband and his wife. They treat his grandma badly, and they are waiting the death of her grandma. The author used the general names of the characters in order to show us that it could be in any family members, like mommy, daddy, grandma, and whatever. So the story shows the cold relations of the cold relations and disrespect of the old grandma. We can see that they prefer money over family value, and which that is common for American society. This is often a common situation today. We can see that the children bring their grandma to from their farm to their big beautiful house in order to not for her pleasure, but because of money. Money is something important for them. They don't care for her interest also. They think that she doesn't understand anything, but in reality, because she is old-fashioned, but in reality she understands everything more than anyone. In this play, the author wants to show us the attitude of the younger generation towards the older generation, and how they treat the grandma, and how they talk about her. About the plot of the play, the plot of the play, we can see that from the beginning of the play that mommy and daddy treat grandma badly, and they are talking about her also in a bad way. However, there is no clear climax in the play or no resolution. Maybe it is a climax when it was heard by mommy and daddy, and it was a sign of death to grandma. The characters and symbolism. I will discuss the characters and symbolism according to each character. The first character, which is Mommy, she is 55 years old, and she is a well-dressed, imposing woman. She brings her mother from the farm, as we said, to their big, beautiful house in the city. She is an apartment. Yes. She is a dominating and cruel character. She is dominant. She wants everything. She wants to control everything. She shows no respect to anyone, even though her husband or her mother. She doesn't have an emotional attachment to her own mother. Also. She also considered as the decision maker of the family. She decided to put the grandma in the sandbox, and also she decided to start the music or to end it with the and sometimes. According to Daddy character, he is 60 years old, which is the rich man that Mommy married. He is passive. He is also followed her mother, and he does whatever she wants whatever she wants and whatever she said. According to Grandma, she is the protagonist of the play, and she faced a conflict with her family, society, and death. She is acting like a child, and she is her voice also is like a child. The young man, the last. Before the last character, the young man, he is considered as an angel of death. He is very pleasant, and he greeting the other characters just by saying hi. And he is the only one who care of Grandma and shows the respect to her. He doesn't have any name yet. But according to the musician, he has no musician. He has no particular age. He doesn't speak. He just want to be. He just want to play music or stop it in times. According to symbolism, Mommy, Daddy, and Grandma are all of them symbolism of cold, are symbols of cold relationships in the contemporary family unit. But Mommy and Daddy are symbols of future generation, while Grandma is a symbol of older generation, or really it is an icon of the past. The new generation, Mommy and Daddy, don't want to accept her values, and they don't want her to be in their lives also. The young man, it is a symbol of, it symbolizes today's personal values and the lack of culture of the new generations. When he kisses the Grandma, it symbolizes that the near is come and her death is near. The author tries to show us the reality of today's society, which is the lack of compassion for individuals. After Mommy and Daddy place the Grandma in the sandbox, this symbolizes her death, as we said, and they just wait her to die. Finally, I want to say that this is a very simple play, but it has a hidden meaning. It is very complex, and it relates to modern American family. All the characters are symbolizes of the self-awareness in the society, in the play. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. In fact, it is, the presentation would be like, incomplete without looking at the text, because here we're talking about the text, but we're not talking of the text. So I think, next time you should read, the text, everybody, because here you might have an excerpt in the exam, and you don't know how to comment on it. So it's very important to read, you know. It's very important, like, to look at the symbolic meaning of everything. I think, you know, in the play, if you read, like, the play, you'll feel like when the woman asked the young man about his name, like, he said, I have no name. And of course, this is symbolic. Where are you from? He said, from California, Los Angeles. Los Angeles, you know, is the capital of Hollywood. Or, I mean, Hollywood is in Los Angeles. So we're talking about, like, figures. Figures means money. All these are symbolic. Now, the woman was thinking, or mommy was thinking, I mean, the grandma was thinking of her, or was talking about her daughter as, look at this big cow I fed, you know, like she was a cow. Why? Because all the resources of America were put in that woman. So this story, like, or this play should be read very well. And next time I have, like, to comment, like, we have to comment together on the play, and hopefully we expand, you know, the discussion to give a very, you know, complete image of the story. And we end talking about the American dream. So this will take us about 40 minutes, and then we'll be talking about the exam. Okay? Thank you very much.